The dojo was packed, rows of folding chairs filled with parents, students, and local spectators, all gathered for the community demo. The mats gleamed under the overhead lights. Kiais echoed off the walls. Jason Statham stood quietly at the back, leaning against the wooden wall. He wore a plain oversized gray t-shirt, relaxed cargo pants, and old sneakers. Unassuming. Just another face in the crowd, or so it seemed. Then came the voice. Oi! Is that who I think it is? All heads turned as Sensei Riku Watanabe strutted to the center of the mat, smug, chiseled, radiating arrogance. Mid-30s. His GI sleeves rolled tight to show off a snake tattoo spiraling around his forearm. Ladies and gentlemen, Riku called out, loud and theatrical. Looks like Hollywood sent us a stuntman today. Mr. Transporter himself. The crowd chuckled. Phones lifted. Cameras rolled. Riku grinned wider. Jason remained still. You here for lessons, mate? Riku jeered. Or just lost on the way to a movie set? Laughter rippled again. A few younger students giggled nervously, glancing between Riku and Jason. Jason didn't move. Didn't blink. Just watched. Riku wasn't finished. He pointed toward him. Come on, show us what 20 years of pretending looks like. He mimicked a wild roundhouse, mocking Hollywood flair. Jason pushed off the wall with one hand. Come. Steady. He walked toward the mat without a word, slowly pulling off his jacket. He dropped it on a bench. Then looked Riku dead in the eye. You sure? Jason said quietly, voice low and razor-sharp. You want to see that? The dojo fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. The stuntman had just turned into something else entirely. Before we proceed, like and subscribe to catch Jason Statham's epic face-off with Smug Dojo Master and comment where you're watching from today. The dojo sat tucked between a ramen shop and a bookstore in Little Tokyo, Los Angeles. A tight space with faded red bricks and a glowing paper lantern that read Watanabe Dojo. Inside, the energy was thick. The mats were scuffed from years of hard training. Posters of flying kicks and tournament trophies lined the walls. It was the kind of place that loved attention, especially from the live streams and clips posted after every demo. Sensei Riku Watanabe stood at the center of it all, part fighter, part influencer. Early 30s, 4th-degree black belt in karate. Hair slicked back. Muscles tensed like springs under his GI. A man addicted to applause. He thrived on humiliation, especially when outsiders walked in. 2 weeks ago, he went viral for publicly embarrassing a visiting Taekwondo champion, swept his leg and slapped him on the mat while the cameras rolled. The video hit 3 million views in 48 hours. Since then, he had become even bolder, more reckless, convinced no one could outshine him in his own dojo. He especially hated celebrity fighters. To him, movie stars were clowns with choreographers, not warriors. And now, standing in his dojo, was Jason Statham. But Jason hadn't come for glory. He was in town after wrapping a low-profile indie project nearby. His close friend, a former stuntman, had a son training here, and Jason had promised to come watch the kid perform. He slipped in quietly, wearing a loose dark hoodie over a plain t-shirt, cargo pants, and worn-out sneakers. No entourage. No cameras. Just another face near the back wall. Except Riku spotted him. And his ego couldn't resist. What no one knew, not the crowd, not even Riku, was that Jason had once trained in Japan under Master Hiroshi, the very man who had once mentored Riku years ago. Jason had trained before the fame, before the lights. His roots ran deeper than most realized. But he said nothing. He simply watched. Until Riku called him out. Until the ego stormed the floor, and invited a storm in return. Jason's hoodie came off. And everything was about to change. Riku's grin widened as he stepped to the center mat, rolling his shoulders with theatrical arrogance. The spotlight wasn't on him. It was supposed to be, and now it felt like Jason's quiet presence had stolen it without trying. Riku would fix that. He launched into a dramatic kata, his GI whipping with every exaggerated movement. He struck the air with sharp, unnecessary flair, stomping louder than needed. His shouts echoed across the walls like a showman craving validation. Then he pivoted, pointed straight at Jason, and barked loud enough for the entire dojo to hear. "What's the matter, Hollywood? You forget your stunt team today? Or are you just afraid to break a nail in a real dojo?" Laughter rippled through the room. A row of teenage students near the back nudged each other, snickering. One pulled out his phone and whispered to the girl beside him. "He's gonna make Jason Statham beg for mercy. Watch this." Another voice chimed in. "Bet he folds faster than a script rewrite." The phones were out now. Angles. TikToks. Instagram stories. The dojo had become a coliseum. And the man at the center, the quiet one in cargo pants and sneakers, had still not moved. Jason finally exhaled. No smile. No reaction. Just a pause, and then, "I didn't come here to fight." That alone made the room pause. "I came to watch a kid train. Your student." He nodded subtly toward the corner, where a small boy with wide eyes and nervous hands stood, half behind his father, Jason's old stunt colleague. The child looked overwhelmed. Embarrassed. Jason looked back at Riku. "But you're pushing this." His tone was steady now, quiet but cutting. "And you're forcing me to show you something your old sensei never managed to teach." That was the crack. Riku's bravado twitched. He stepped forward, arms out wide in mock invitation, and shouted, "Fine. Spar me. Let's see what 2 decades of movie fighting looks like when the cameras stop rolling." A few in the crowd gasped. Even some black belts lining the side shuffled uncomfortably. They knew Jason's background. They had heard the stories. Not all were fiction. Jason slowly removed his hoodie, folded it with care, and set it beside the mat. His shirt underneath clung to a physique built on pain, sweat, and discipline, not glamour. Riku strutted in a circle. No flips. No poses. No edits. Just man to man. Jason raised one hand, index finger extended calmly. "One rule." Riku blinked. "What?" "No showing off. Just technique." For a beat, the room went still. Then Riku barked a laugh. "Then you're already finished." The mat had barely settled from the sound of feet when Riku Watanabe exploded forward. He launched himself into the air with a flying knee aimed straight at Jason Statham's ribs. Fast, aggressive, flashy. The crowd gasped, phones locked in shaky hands, capturing every angle. But Jason? Jason barely moved. He shifted his weight, pivoted on one foot, and let the knee sail past him with surgical ease. Then, with a calm, almost lazy motion, he drove a short body shot into Riku's ribs. Thump. The kind of punch you did not hear with your ears, but felt in your bones. Riku crumpled slightly, gasping as the wind exited his body in one involuntary grunt. The dojo went silent for a breath. Then phones lifted higher. Teens with oversized confidence suddenly leaned forward. "No way." Riku's smile was gone. His stance shifted, now wide, grounded, angrier. He wiped his mouth and laughed, but it was thin, nervous. "Lucky shot," he muttered, circling. Jason stood square. Elbows tight. Hands loose. He had not said a word. Riku stepped in again, this time faking a roundhouse and spinning into a heel kick. Jason leaned back, inches to spare, then trapped the ankle mid-air and swept the grounded leg. Crack. Riku hit the mat flat on his back. Jason did not follow up. He waited. Riku scrambled up, red-faced. "Try that again, Grandpa," he barked. Jason exhaled once. Calm, almost bored. Riku surged in, hands swinging wild, a flurry of hooks, a clumsy elbow, a back fist trying to catch anything. Jason was a ghost. He sidestepped, rolled his shoulder under, caught a wrist, twisted, snap. Riku screamed as Jason forced him into a lock, spun him halfway around, and tapped a palm strike gently, but firmly, into his throat. Controlled. Surgical. A whisper of real damage. Riku stumbled back coughing, pawing at his neck. The crowd had changed. No longer laughing. No longer cheering for Riku. Now they watched Jason, wide-eyed, holding their breath, wondering if this was still a demo, or something else. Jason advanced now. Slowly. Chin down. Feet whispering across the floor. Riku backed up, panic showing in his movements. Desperation overtook technique. He tried another spin kick. Too slow. Jason ducked it and rammed his shoulder into Riku's gut, lifting and dumping him to the mat again. No pause. Jason flowed directly into top control, sliding into a mounted position. He did not punch. He did not elbow. He waited. "Stand up," Jason said quietly. First words since the jacket. Riku looked dazed. Embarrassed. But pride, or stupidity, made him roll to his knees and rise. Jason let him. But as soon as Riku raised his fists, Jason moved like lightning. A low inside leg kick chopped into Riku's thigh. His balance buckled. A second kick. Same spot. He groaned. Then Jason danced to his side, and with one smooth, brutal combo, elbow to temple, wrist trap, downward pressure, he folded Riku forward onto his knees. And then, silence falling, Jason stepped behind, wrapped his arm under Riku's shoulder, and slammed a sharp elbow into the base of his neck. Controlled. But deadly. Riku's body dropped like someone unplugged it. He hit the mat, face down. Wheezing. Blood from his nose already spreading into the fibers of the dojo floor. Jason took a single step back. No words. No flex. No celebration. Phones were still filming, but the hands behind them were shaking now. Someone whispered, "He just dismantled him." A kid in the corner gasped, "I thought Riku was the best." Riku rolled onto his side, coughing, eyes wide, dazed. He tried to sit up but failed. He reached out weakly, to the crowd, to the mat, to anything that would restore his dignity. But there was nothing left. Jason, breathing steady, looked down once, then turned away. The silence in the dojo was thick as cement. Everyone was still, awed, uncertain whether to clap, speak, or just keep recording. A girl near the back, the one who had been smirking during Riku's taunts, slowly lowered her phone and whispered, "He's not an actor, he's a weapon." Jason didn't acknowledge her. He picked up his jacket, and the moment he stepped off the mat, the entire room exhaled. For a long moment after the final elbow landed, the dojo stood in absolute silence. Riku lay flat on the mat, face flushed, breathing shallow. Blood still dripped slowly from his nose, pooling beneath his cheekbone. His pride had not just taken a hit, it had been dismantled. Then came the sound of a single clap. Then two. Hesitant. Awkward. And then, a smattering of applause rippled through the room. Not the thunderous ovation you might hear in a stadium, but the kind of slow, cautious approval people offer when their worldview has just shifted. A teenage boy in a white belt leaned toward his friend and whispered, stunned, That wasn't movie fighting." Another voice behind him replied softly, "No, that was real." Jason Statham stood still in the center of the mat, calm as ever. He looked down at Riku, not with arrogance, not with revenge, but with quiet clarity. Then, in front of everyone, he extended a hand. Riku, blinking through the fog, hesitated. Then, with a small grunt of pain and a bruised ego heavier than any injury, he accepted it. Jason helped him to his feet. No show. No drama. Just a steady pull and quiet dignity. Once Riku was upright, Jason leaned in slightly and spoke only loud enough for the front row to hear. "Next time," he said, his tone firm but even, "try showing respect before chasing attention." Riku nodded once. No words. Not even a thank you. Just shame burning behind swollen eyes. Jason let go of his wrist and turned away, but as he did, his gaze landed on a boy near the corner of the mat. Maybe 12 years old. Brown belt. Standing nervously at attention. The boy had flinched during the fight. Everyone had seen it. Jason walked over to him. The boy straightened, nervous. He glanced down, unsure of what to expect. Jason reached over, picked up a clean towel from a bench, and handed it to him. "You've got better footwork than your teacher," he said, nodding to Riku without looking back. The boy's eyes lit up, wide, unbelieving. His father in the bleachers stood speechless, hand over his mouth. Someone near him whispered, "That kid's never gonna forget this." Jason ruffled the boy's hair gently, then turned back toward the exit. Behind him, Riku stood unsteady, hands on his hips, eyes locked on the floor. His black belt, still tight around his waist, suddenly looked like a costume. He did not speak. He did not argue. He just watched, quietly, as Jason walked away through the parted crowd, shoes echoing softly across the dojo floor. No high fives. No gloating. No slow-motion victory stare. Just silence and awe. Phones were still recording. But now, it was reverence. One girl whispered to her friend, "That wasn't for the camera. He really lives that stuff." Another murmured, "That's not a celebrity. That's a real martial artist." As Jason reached the edge of the mat, the dojo's sliding glass door creaked open. Sunlight poured in, catching on dust in the air like tiny golden motes. Jason stepped into the light. Outside, cars drove past. Life went on. But inside, something had changed. Riku sat down on the edge of the mat, elbows on his knees, staring at the same floor where he once strutted. He could still feel the weight of Jason's elbow on his spine. But deeper than that, he felt the weight of something heavier. Humility. For the first time in years. By the time Jason's boots touched the parking lot pavement outside the dojo, the videos had already hit TikTok. And they were everywhere. Within hours, the title that took over every feed read, "Jason Statham silences arrogant dojo master in 3 minutes." It spread like wildfire. By sunset, the video had already hit 3 million views. By the next morning, 12 million, and climbing. Clips came from every angle. One from the left corner of the mat caught the elbow. Another from the back wall captured the one-liner. "Show respect before chasing attention." Every platform lit up. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Twitter Threads, even LinkedIn posts. Comment sections turned into digital temples. That wasn't acting. That was an education. Jason Statham just rewrote the definition of quiet dominance. He walked in, got insulted, and left with everyone's respect. Coldest thing I've ever seen. No flash. No ego. Just mastery. I'd pay for a full course called Discipline by Jason. Martial artists around the world chimed in. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts reposted it with captions like, "This is why belts mean nothing without control." Riku got humbled. And he needed it. Even verified UFC fighters dropped comments. "That elbow at the end? Yeah, that was a real one." Jason's timing is terrifying. Podcasts debated it. Reaction channels broke it down frame by frame. Fitness influencers went from mocking celebrity fighters to praising Jason's mechanics. A side-by-side breakdown even popped up on ESPN's Instagram, comparing Jason's form to actual octagon champions, and he held up. Meanwhile, Riku tried damage control. He uploaded a dimly lit, shaky video titled, "My Side of What Happened with Jason Statham." In it, he wore sunglasses indoors, and opened with, "It was a misunderstanding, and I didn't know he was that trained." The internet wasn't having it. Top comment, "You didn't lose to Jason's name. You lost to his silence." Another, "This isn't about a misunderstanding. This is about humility. And you're still learning it." Riku's apology trended for all the wrong reasons. Jason never posted a thing. He just walked away. And the world followed him. Jason never posted about it. Never commented. Never acknowledged a single view. But his silence said everything. Across martial arts forums, the clip was pinned to the top under a single quote. "Martial arts isn't about being the loudest. It's about being the last man standing with his dignity intact." The phrase caught fire. Printed on shirts. Used in class warm-ups. Adopted by instructors worldwide. At Riku's own dojo, something quietly changed. The Showcase Fridays, once flashy ego-driven sparring sessions, were renamed. Now they called them silent discipline. No screaming. No taunting. Just movement, focus, and control. Students who had once mimicked Riku's arrogance were now quoting Jason's posture. Even the youngest students started asking, "Can I fight like that one day?" Jason. He had already moved on. Later that week, walking alone through an empty downtown alley, his phone buzzed. A text from an old friend in London. "Mate, saw the video. Another fight." Jason chuckled to himself as he slipped the phone back into his pocket. "Not a fight," he muttered aloud with a small smile. "Just a reminder." And with that, he faded into the night. No spotlight, no audience, no words. Just the kind of silence that echoes louder than anything else ever could. The kind of silence that teaches.